Existentialism, gentlemen. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it means, but also how it can help you. So we're a room full of successful people. Everyone's doing well, you're already doing well, but you can still improve. And that's what we're going to look at today. But I want to start by thanking you all. Firstly, thanking Paul. Paul, thanks for having us all here today and hosting us and having us all here. And thank you all in advance for paying attention for the next 5 or 10 minutes. So now you have to pay attention as well. So existentialism. It's summed up by a philosopher called Sartre, and he said existence precedes essence. And again, it's still a little bit confusing, so I'm going to explain, I'm going to break it down in layman's terms. Existence is what you do, and essence is who you are. So what that means is what we do creates who we are, not the other way around, of who we are creates what we do. So again, in layman's terms, break it down a little bit more simple. Just because your dad was a dentist, you don't have to be a dentist. You are completely free to be whatever you want to be. And that's what you've got to think in terms of your success. You're not finished now. Some of you in the room, CEOs, MDs, you're not finished. You can still keep growing. You can still keep getting better, and that's what we've got to look at. Your life is an entirely original project. You are completely free to be whatever you want to be. You don't have to be anything. You can be whatever you want to be. You could change industries right now. You can go and do whatever you want to do. It's an entirely original project. And with that comes a certain degree of freedom. And a lot of us are scared of freedom, and we hide behind something called determinism. And what that means is when people blame certain things, so I can't do this because of, or I'm a product of. You're not a product of your environment. You're not a product of anything. You're not a product of your genetics. The only thing you're a product of is the decisions that you made yesterday, and that's what got you where you are today. So that's why you've got to plant the seeds today and reap the rewards tomorrow. That's what's going to help you. So make sure today is your best day. You've got to give 100% every single day. And if you can put everything in today, then tomorrow you're going to feel better, and you've got to get up and do it again. And then you cannot help but be successful. With that mentality, you can't help but be successful. My mind frame is, I will die before I lose. And with that, how can I not be successful? That's the only thing that could happen. Other than dying, you could die, but generally speaking, you're going to be successful, and that's what it needs to be. So with that freedom, you have a responsibility to be the best that you can be. A cat, for example, an animal, any animal, it can only be that animal, it can only be a cat. A tree, it can only be a tree, it can't be anything else. A tree is planted, it grows, it sheds its leaves, sheds the seeds, and dies. That's it, that's all it can do. But because you have this freedom and you can be anything, you have to be great. You can't be mediocre, you can't be average. Otherwise you're wasting this potential, you're wasting this freedom. You have a responsibility to be the best that you can be every single day, and that's what you've got to do. And that's the similarity there. So we're going to look at a situation, and life is what you make it. It's an interpretation. I always say, there's no such thing as truth, only interpretation. So you can interpret things completely different, and you'll still pass a lie detector test, even though you're saying the exact opposite of someone else who could pass one as well. So a story of this is two hikers. They're both climbing a mountain. Halfway up the mountain, they come across a massive boulder. The two hikers are completely different in terms of their personality. One of them sees it as a challenge to overcome, to get to the top of the mountain. And one of them sees it as a barrier. Now, they're both right, they're both correct in their own way. That's their interpretation of the situation. But the one who saw it as a challenge went on to get to the top of the mountain and achieve incredible things. The person who didn't, the hiker who saw it as a barrier, went back down. He never made it to the top, in fact, it was sunk to the bottom. And that's what you've got to think. You've got to interpret life, you've got to be positive. You've got to see things in such a way. You can't be so negative about things. And that's what you've got to think. There's no such thing as fate. You are not destined to be here today. Like I said, you're a product of the decisions you made yesterday. Sometime in the past, you all decided to book on here. And that's why you're here right now. That's why you're learning. That's why you're getting better. And that's what you've got to think. That's what we've got to think. And like I said, there's no such thing as fate. Absolutely none whatsoever. There's no divine intervention. Your mind creates what you are today, and it's going to create what you are tomorrow. We are products of our dominant thoughts. So I'm a motivational speaker now because I wanted to be. Not because my dad was, not because anybody else was who I knew. I'm a motivational speaker because that's what I wanted, and I created that. Now, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you still created it. And our mind's a powerful thing. And if you want something really bad, if you want something bad enough, you're going to create it and you're going to make it happen. That is how it works. It's as simple as that. And it's a good story. Some of you may have heard the story. There was a bank in New York in the 80s. Really famous bank, doing really well. Continued growth year after year for a decade, 10 years. absolutely smashing it in terms of business. And no one knows where the rumour started from, but there was a rumour that this bank was struggling. You know, there was a chance of insolvency, there was a chance of bankruptcy. It was a complete rumour, it was fabrication, it weren't true. But what happened is a couple of people started to withdraw the money. They were scared, they were worried, started to withdraw the money. People saw it, more people went, it started a vicious cycle, it started a snowball effect. More people started to withdraw the money. Before you know it, it was a frenzy. The banks full, the streets, so there's a queue all the way out in the street, everyone's trying to withdraw the money, bank's got no capital left, guess what happens? Bankruptcy. We created that. With our thoughts, we created that bank closing down, and what we thought was going to happen, happened. Now, you can only do it with your own life. You can only do it in your own circle of influence. No matter how much we want Halley's Comet to hit Earth, no matter how much we keep predicting it's going to happen, no matter how much we talk about it, it isn't going to happen unless it's going to happen. We're not going to make that, but you can control your own life, you can control your own destiny, and that's what you've got to do. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of things to think about. Unsuccessful people are unsuccessful not because of lack of strength or knowledge, but because of lack of will. Because of lack of will. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're usually right. And the last one, and this especially goes for you guys in the room, you're already successful, but you're not finished. And you didn't come this far to only get this far. Thank you very much, gents.